looking for answers, searching for the truth. Come join us on a quest for truth as we dig deep for the answers. Come with us as we uncover sinister government cover-ups, conspiracy theories, satanic rituals, the new world order and more. Join us as we expose the deep hidden agendas in our world today.
Welcome to Red Pill, Quest for Truth. Welcome to Red Pill, Quest for Truth.
The death toll is increasing tonight in Southern California. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Thomas.
I'm Laura Painter. We're learning now at least 11 people are confirmed dead. 5 separate wildfires rage across Los Angeles right now. At least 180,000 people have been forced to evacuate as the fires have scorched a combined 35,000 acres. The death toll is expected to rise. ABC's Alex Stone is in Altadena tonight.
He's live with more on the firefight and the absolute devastation left behind. Alex, so many people have just lost everything.
They have lost everything, Chris and Lauren. In fact, just a moment ago, there was a family that somehow got in beyond the roadblock, and they came by quite emotional. They just looked at their childhood home down this street. Everything on this street completely gone. These homes, there is nothing left. There's a basketball hoop there, but cars burned out. Just nothing left in these homes as firefighters are trying to put out the flames.
National Guard troops now patrolling the streets in Los Angeles to help enforce evacuation orders. A 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew for the Eden Fire and Palisades fire areas to prevent looting as the city deals with catastrophic wildfires.
We're not doing this to inconvenience anybody. We're doing it to protect the structures, the houses that people have left.
The fires, which have devastated Los Angeles neighborhoods on the east and west sides of the city, have destroyed over 10,000 buildings, with those figures expected to grow.
We found out through word of mouth yesterday, confirmed from our neighbors that hiked in, that our house was gone.
The Palisades fire between Santa Monica and Malibu on the city's west side and the Eden fire in the east near Pasadena already rank as the most destructive in Los Angeles history. They've consumed over 53 square miles and turned entire neighborhoods to ash. The winds, with gusts up to 100 miles an hour earlier this week, have died down.
Due to the favorable overnight weather conditions, we can report that the Palisades fire is now 8% contained. The Kenneth fire. Forward progress has been stopped with 35% containment at 1,000 acres.
In Washington, President Biden pledging to pay for 100% of the state's immediate costs for the next 180 days.
Welcome back, folks. Thanks for starting this off with a like. Hit that like button because we need to get this out to as many folks before they take it down.
And this is not birds or bugs. I can promise you that. There is something very odd going on with the military or something that's taking place in Area 51 and then being dropped in the sky, which is then carried over by the jet stream or some sort of wind pattern into Southern California.
Lots of coincidences arising from the area and fire department not even having any water to fight the fire just before this fire. Yeah, cutting the fire aspect of the insurance. Even down to the area being deemed a 15-minute smart city area. And before we dive into all this crazy information you guys need to know, it's no surprise that they were yanking the insurance from this specific area. Zachary Levi, the actor.
70% or so of the insured in Southern California that used to have fire insurance in their home months ago, this insurance was taken away. The insurance company said, no, we're not going to offer fire insurance anymore. What else do they need? They don't need flood insurance. They need fire insurance. This is a fire hazard. Of course, that's the insurance that they need and that they want. And just months ago, this was stripped from people. Like this is not okay. It is not okay in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I'm hearing that State Farm yanked their coverage because the regulators in California wouldn't let them raise rates. So now millions of people don't have fire insurance, and they've lost their homes and have nothing. And you're right. You mentioned North Carolina. Remember the Maui fires? Still devastation.
Yeah, Lahaina.
And they were staying in 5-star luxury resorts, FEMA was. So we expect more, we expect better, we expect dignity and competence in the United States of America. That's not too much to ask.
Got all kinds of actors calling out something ain't right.
At some point, it goes beyond just whoopsie. At some point, it goes beyond negligence. There's something that's almost criminally intentional about this. Like, what are they doing? I don't know.
And before we get to the juicy stuff that's coming up, and I'm talking about lasers, Area 51, yeah, the juicy stuff, did you happen to catch the mayor's response? Because Sean Hannity did.
Mayor Bass had no interest at all in answering any questions. This is beyond outrageous. Take a look.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
We're talking that ice-cold killer attitude.
No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Well, there's a real mayor of the people, but Mayor Bass, Governor Newsom, the federal government, they have all failed the people of California.
Looked like she was just mowing people down to get out of there. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments of that. Even Dennis Quaid speaking up.
Really, my heart goes out to them. And no water in the Palisades. The infrastructure has been a big problem around here, and where we should spend the money. I do have a difference with that.
Yeah.
And the mayor coming back, I'm sure she got on the first plane coming back, but having nothing to say once she got here, I don't know if that was edited.
A lot of folks, a lot of faces speaking out. All right, and the guy in our space of awareness into thin air put this out, some really good information, calling out 3 major fires all begin at the same time. Does this all sound way too familiar? 3 fires starting at the same time. Also an Into Thin Air's post right here. Infrared satellite catches U.S. mill setting fires in California using DEW. Now, that's a post that he put out. Were they catching fires? I don't know. But check this data out. Right here, you can see, wait, here it comes. This is infrared from the satellites. Now wait for it. What is that? Did y'all see that? That is laser. And on the screen you can see what they often use that for, I'm sure. Apparently this is coming from Daywalker 378. But we got more on this. Check this out. And let me know down in the comments if you got more information on this. So far, this is one of the only ones that has been sent to me. Also, we've got a little bit of image from a Fox News site of something flying into it looks weird. It looks like some kind of weapon. But here's another thing that Into Thin Air put out.
All right, everyone, welcome back. This is going to blow your mind. Once again, we are looking at Area 51. As these fires are going on in Southern California, they are laying something over Area 51. It's then being shot by the NEXRAD radar system. You can see that clear as day right here. It is then expanding and being dropped right over Southern California. And then take a look at what happens to Area 51. This is totally insane. This is not normal, and this is not birds or bugs. I can promise you that. There is something very odd going on with the military or something that's taking place in Area 51 and then being dropped in the sky, which is then carried over by the jet stream or some sort of wind pattern into Southern California. I talked about this yesterday when we predicted these wildfires based on a northwest anomaly that we saw, again from the NEXRAD radar system, which then led to insane wildfires in Ventura County. Now we are seeing more and more of this being dumped over Area 51 and then flows into Southern California. What is going on here? And then look at how the NEXRAD towers go absolutely berserk. There is no chance that this isn't related, my friends. This is now 2 days in a row we have captured this happening over Area 51 and flowing down into Southern California, exactly where these wildfires are. And I know a lot of people will give us a hard time for talking about this, but how can you not? This is not a coincidence whatsoever, and I'm going to continue digging into this to see exactly how long they continue this for. If you look close enough, you can find stuff like this every day on these satellite charts. Alright, so one final time, let's dissect this right here. We have it dropped over Area 51, a perfect lineup with where the base is, and just like yesterday, as soon as it's laid out, we have the zap coming from the radar, the same one coming from Nevada right here. Then we have the expansion as it moves into Southern California. Just like yesterday, those radars start going off and crazy, and that's when this disco party begins in Nevada. Check this out. This is just unbelievable to see happening and then have no one point this out. Just as the cloud is getting over Southern California where all the wildfires are, we start seeing the NEXRAD towers from different states crisscrossing right over Area 51. Those are where our scalar beams are happening, and this is just insane to watch.
Alright, so clearly go follow that guy if you want to check out what else he digs up, because that's some pretty darn good information. What do you guys think? Is that just a coincidence, or is it some really valuable information to try to figure out the puzzle? Put it in the comments. Again, share this video out. You guys compare this to what's happened before. I don't think that these videos are going to survive very long, because I feel like with Maui and Lahaina, we've already got a little bit of warm-up and a watchful eye onto what to look out for, right? Again, when we've got smart LA 2028 technology for a better Los Angeles, probably just a coincidence that many of these areas planned for a WEF 2030 15-minute city, and all these disasters are coincidentally happening at the same time.
Firefighters are gaining some containment now, a minimal amount, but some containment, and they did have progress on this fire, the Eaton fire today, and in less than an hour from right now, the red flag fire warning is finally going to expire after so many days. They will get a bit of a break, but unfortunately, come late this weekend into early next week, another round of Santa Ana winds are going to come in. Live in Altadena, I'm Alex Stone, ABC 10. Back to you.
Well, it is really good to hear they're getting a better hold on these fires. Alex, really still a long and painful road to recovery and rebuilding. Alex Stone, be safe, and thank you for the live update.
LA burns. These are some of the headlines that are out there in regards to the major fires that are burning LA to the ground. I've done numerous videos on it already in regards to Smart LA 2028 and the Olympics. And one of the things that I need to cover in this video is about coincidences with the winds that are occurring. Because do you think it's a coincidence that 5 separate fires start at the same time that the Santa Ana winds reach well over 100 miles per hour? Literally hurricane force winds coming out of the Santa Ana winds. If you believe in coincidences, I guess you'll believe whatever the mainstream media, aka the government, tells you. But if you pay attention to the narratives out there and how they're covering this story, they're clearly doing everything they can to make sure people don't wake up, because that's what it's really about. That's what they really have to do when these events occur, where the science doesn't add up and they have to reinvent it. They have to make sure that you don't get suspicious of how science just conveniently changes when these types of things happen. So right now what we're seeing are winds continuing in California. They're saying that they're hurricane strength winds. And It's not normal for California to have wildfires like this in the first place in the month of January, let alone 5 separate ones that are starting in separate locations that almost seem like they're getting ignited, because they are. Now, you could believe it's a directed energy weapon. You could believe that it's arson, one way or the other. It's the government starting these things. So yes, it is arson. Whatever method they use, there's plenty of them that they can use to start these fires. But the wind plays a vital role in all this, because the wind is helping this fire ignite and spread across the entire region, which is what the goal actually is. So we've heard some stories out there about how they're calling the Santa Ana winds devil winds, how Santa Ana devil winds and climate change are fueling fire conditions in California. And it's not a coincidence either that there's a lot of biblical undertones being thrown out by the mainstream media and deliberately trending on Twitter to bait people in, because clearly at this point they don't want conservatives to think that all of a sudden they're not using weather modification, directed energy weapons, and all these other military applications that they are in fact using. They want them to suddenly believe that God is burning places like Los Angeles to the ground because there's so many sinners in Los Angeles, right? This is the mindset that these people suddenly have, right? Depending on the state, if it's red or it's blue, they're going to decide whether or not it's an act of the government or not. So Helene is an act of the government because of the lithium, because there's conservative Christians there. But California is an act of God because there's so many liberals there, and it's a liberal cesspool. And of course, they think immediately about Hollywood. And nobody's exposed Hollywood, or at least not many people have exposed Hollywood as much as I have over the years. I have a disdain for Hollywood. I have a disdain for the people in Hollywood. They're not suffering. They were well aware that this was going to come. They've all got underground bunkers. They've all got endless amounts of food supply. They're all, of course, conveniently staying in the area to film and upload videos of the whole place burning to the ground to garner sympathy. But they're well aware of this and why it's happening and who's responsible for it happening. But for people out there to cheer for this to happen because it's a Democrat state is absolutely disgusting. Because again, they tell you that these states are blue and red based on who they put in power, but there's good people all around us and there's bad people all around us. And for people to say that this is an act of God, when this is clearly an act of the government, is really, like I mentioned previously, it's really people just suddenly speaking on behalf of God and deciding that things like Donald Trump being saved because they like Donald Trump is divine intervention, right? When the government could easily assassinate him at any time they want to. Or when the fires hit California, this is an act of God, but when the hurricane hits the Carolinas, it's an act of government. It's pretty insane, but I like to personally remember that Jesus Christ's sacrifice, his atonement, was the perfect offering that fully satisfied God's justice regarding human sin, which removed the need for further intervention to punish sin up until, of course, Judgment Day. But that's just my take on the matter. So this is what we need to pay attention to. The story about devil winds, okay? They're calling it devil winds. But look how the Sinclair Broadcasting Group is covering this, okay? So we have stories out there all over affiliate news markets. So if you don't know what affiliate news markets is, that means that the local news, wherever you are, Philadelphia, New York, Florida, they feed these scripts to all the affiliate markets out there. And the script that they're feeding is what? Why is it so windy? Here's what to know about the Santa Ana winds. Now, why are they doing this? Well, it's very easy to see. You can see Salt Lake City. You can see Philadelphia. You can see the Weather Channel, Forbes. All media outlets, mainstream and local, have put out stories about what the Santa Ana winds are, explaining the Santa Ana winds because they want to use the Santa Ana winds as the excuse as to why the fire is spreading, because they don't want you to get suspicious as to why there's 5 separate fires in all these random locations happening at the same time, and conveniently the Santa Ana winds are hitting hurricane levels. That's because this is HAARP being used. This is weather modification being used. And these are not routine Santa Ana winds. This is not a routine time for wildfires to occur, and these are not routine wind gusts from the Santa Ana winds. So if you believe in coincidences that all these fires could happen at the same time as Santa Ana winds, well, then you'll believe in the science, I guess. And the science conveniently changes when they decide that they want to commit mass genocide or they want to burn people's homes to the ground. So HAARP is able to manipulate the wind speed. Whatever ignited it in the first place, whether it was aluminum, barium, and drones being used, which could very easily be done, or directed energy weapons, it doesn't make a difference at this point because it's very clear that this was a man-made fire, and we're going to see more of these pop up. HAARP has signal and amplification dish sites all around North America. They have the ability to achieve complete weather control in conjunction with HAARP's wavelength frequency transmissions. I've talked about and shown many things over the years to explain this to people out there who are asleep. They've trained you to think that you can't control Mother Nature. You can't control the weather. You believe this because they've told it to you over and over and over again from a young age, so you believe it as truth. That's how this whole system works. We get told lies from a young age, and we believe in lies because it's been ingrained in us as truth. They teach us nothing but lies in the indoctrination systems, the school systems, right? So one of the sayings we've always heard is you can't control the weather. Yet I'll play for you clips here that prove that you can control the weather. I'll even play for you clips of former presidents like John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson talking about he who controls the weather will control the world. And you'll start, hopefully, in your brain connecting the dots as to why you're hearing so much about things like the jet streams taking new routes, right? Is this the real reason weather is getting wilder? Not normal. The jet streams are going crazy because they're manipulating the weather and they're trying to blame it on this thing called climate change. And they're going to blame it on climate change, which is why all of a sudden, all these stories are already out there days after these fires started, hours after these fires started, trying to explain how climate change is fueling the conditions in California because it's not normal weather behavior. And they're ingraining this in your head day after day. Whether you believe it at first or not, they know that the more they repeat it, the more people are watching programming in a delta wavelength, which means that they're watching it asleep. They're getting programmed into believing this, that they're going to start repeating the lie. So when you start bringing up to them about weather modification and why all of a sudden 5 fires can start at once and the Santa Ana winds can hit hurricane speeds and blow in directions they don't normally blow, they expect the person to repeat, well, that's because of climate change. We need to do something about climate change. And ultimately, this is a victory for them in many different ways, because not only are they convincing people that weather modification and weather warfare is not real, but they're also going to convince people that the way to stop weather warfare is by changing the way they live, which they also want you to do. Because people are going to start living differently. They're going to start living less. They're going to start owning nothing and being happy. They're going to start having everything monitored so they can track their carbon footprint so that things like this don't happen in the future. So this is a win for the globalists twofold. They'll win by convincing you that they're not murdering you, that it's just science. And in fact, you're the one who's going to have to pay the price because you're going to have to give up your car. You're going to have to give up meats. You're going to have to give up taking showers, having baths, owning pool, whatever it is. The carbon footprint literally shows us that it is an enslavement model where your behavior has to change. And your behavior changing means you lock yourself in your home like everybody did a few years ago and you start living differently. But for anybody out there that's not familiar with HAARP, here's just a couple of clips that I put together for you.
We shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control.
It lays the predicate foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Each of these trailers you see around me have transmitters in them. The transmitters feed power from the main building over there up into these dipole antennas. And basically there are 180 antennas radiating high frequency waves up in the ionosphere. It's a big ham radio, a big HF radio, the biggest in the world. Fundamentally what this is about is taking the ionosphere at 100 kilometers up and turning it into a laboratory. We can do experiments. We can create bubbles. We can heat small sections. can create waves. We can excite plasma resonances and do a lot of experiments. We can transmit signals all around the world. We can study the effects of the ionosphere. It basically makes the ionosphere a laboratory, and we can do experiments that no one else can do.
HAARP is comprised of 180 antennas linked together to function as one giant steerable antenna. Steerable because it can aim millions of watts of ELF waves into one tiny patch of the atmosphere. The intense energy being beamed into the sky by HAARP is actually heating up the atmosphere, causing weather changes.
HAARP is being used for weather modification. The military's own record proves it, and yet they still deny it to the public.
HAARP is one of several ELF wave transmitters located all over the globe. Working in tandem, these transmitters could potentially alter the weather anywhere in the world, changing the jet stream's course entirely. Even hurricane steering would be possible by heating up the atmosphere and building up high-pressure domes that could deflect or change the course of hurricanes.
So clearly, if they've talked about, and I've covered this so many times, right? Everyone out there should be aware by now that they have the ability to steer the weather. They have the ability to create tornadoes, to create massive amounts of wind at any particular time that they please. And this isn't just via HAARP. We know that these towers conveniently went up, which aren't just causing mass amounts of sickness and radiation poisoning, but these towers can be used with radio frequencies and EMFs to actually steer and control the weather. So this is not a conspiracy. They want you to believe it's a conspiracy because it's very hard for people to grasp this. Now, if people went to school at the age of 5 to 20, like we all do, and instead of being told you can't control Mother Nature and all this other stuff, and you were told every single day that the government has the ability to control the weather, well, then you would say, oh my goodness, this is the government doing it, right? But you've been trained to believe that they can't control the weather, that nobody can control the weather, and that all people who speak these things are conspiracy theorists. Why would you have presidents speaking about weather modification and weather control in the 1940s, 50s, 60s? All those eras, this stuff has been patented. This stuff goes back to the 1800s, the government patents on weather modification and weather control. So what we're seeing right now is Big Brother trying to prevent an awakening from happening, because you're actually seeing a lot of conservatives, of course, who are saying that this is an act of God, but now you're seeing Democrats saying that this is weird, saying that this doesn't make sense. 5 major wildfires happening in 36 hours. Hundreds of thousands of people displaced, people dead, people injured. All of a sudden, of course, like I covered yesterday in a separate video, insurance companies dropping homeowners insurance for citizens in California right before all their homes burned to the ground. So guess what that means? That means that the land is going to be seized and taken by the government. Why is this hard for people to actually believe? They want to build these cities. You're not going to comply. How do you think they're going to do these things that they talk about doing? How many times have I discussed this, right? They want to build smart cities. They tell you that that's their plan. They want to build these infrastructures that are really control grids that you're going to live inside of. What do you think? People are going to willingly give up their homes so that they could plow through it and put a smart home there and a smart apartment complex there? And remember, you're not going to own anything, so you're not going to have a home anyway. What do you think? That people are all of a sudden going to just willfully give up their things? They obviously know that nobody, Democrat or Republican, is going to hand their home over to the government or their cars or everything else that they have to destroy to get what they want. And for people out there, again, who can't wrap their heads around people being this sick, if you knew, which most of us do know who watch this channel, what these people do in secret, in darkness, with children, then this wouldn't even cause you to blink as far as the realization that these people are so sick that they would burn people's homes and lives to the ground. Because the acts they commit in secret with children should be enough for anyone out there to say, oh yeah, I could see them totally doing that. It's not even, they wouldn't even hesitate. They wouldn't be like, wait, I don't know if I want to do that. You know, they vote for people like us in California. They all work together. They don't care who you vote for. If you're a Democrat, just because the New World Order government is going to lean towards Democrat ideologies, it's a seesaw. It's going to go back and forth to the Democrats and Republicans destroy everything. And now Donald Trump has been put in power to bring in all these, these things like the 10 kingdoms from the Club of Rome, right? And it's going to go back and it's going to go forth until everything is destroyed. They're working together. They don't care what you vote for. They don't care if you're, into gender equality and pronouns. They couldn't care less. They're soulless. So the Sinclair Broadcasting Group, again, these are things that I always tell people to look for. After these things occur, look to the media and the narrative, right? So everybody out there immediately probably thought, okay, they're going to start pushing climate change. Yes. But the Santa Ana winds is important. And when you see it getting pushed all around the country, right? So people in Philadelphia who are just hearing about the fires in California, and they're like, oh, that seems weird. Oh, yeah. And maybe they bump into some conspiracy facts online. They want to make sure that they get fed this about the Santa Ana wind. So if they hear anything about HAARP and being able to steer these things and create mass amounts of wind gusts to enhance the fire and spread the fire, that no, it's Santa Ana winds. So they went out of their way not to talk about the victims, how people could, this or that or they went out of their way days after, just because they saw online that people were saying, this is weird. It's like hurricane winds. It's like winds we've never felt. This is way stronger than the Santa Ana winds. To go out and explain to you why the entire city of Los Angeles is engulfed in flames, because the Santa Ana winds, and the Santa Ana winds is doing this with the atmosphere, the pressure system, and they don't want you to ever fathom the fact that they can do this themselves. That's the point. So always look to the affiliate markets, which the Sinclair Broadcasting Group sends the same script to everybody. What do you think? Somebody in Philadelphia woke up and they went into work and they're like, it's not like when we go, you or me go into an office somewhere, you have an itinerary, what you're going to do, and maybe I'd like to try to do this or try to do that. Okay, they go into work. What do you think? Somebody in Philadelphia went in and they're like, hey, the meteorologist said, I'd love to explain the Santa Ana winds today. And so did somebody in Utah, and so did somebody in Florida, and somebody in Texas and Missouri. All these people just went in randomly in the same exact day while these fires are occurring and said, we want to explain the Santa Ana winds today. All right. No, because it's fed to them from above. They all get the same script, and they all are told, explain the Santa Ana winds so people out there don't become suspicious, because the last thing they can have is ones that can see, because that's what it's about preventing. And they have to make sure every time they do things like this, especially in a seesaw, so if it's in a Democratic state, they do have worries and concerns that maybe Democrats will wake up to this stuff. Maybe they'll think, even though Donald Trump's not in power yet, maybe they'll think to themselves, well, maybe Donald Trump is doing this to us in California because we're Democrats and all the things that we believe in here, which other states don't, right? Because they're hearing the narrative out there that it's God's wrath, and most of them are atheists, so they don't believe that. And they don't believe they don't believe that this is a random coincidence, because it doesn't make sense, because the science doesn't add up. Remember, they trust and believe in the science. The same, people who trust to believe in the science listen to people who tell them, like at the World Economic Forum, we own the science, which means we can manipulate it. But when the science doesn't add up, they have to reinvent the science. And the last thing, again, they can have are ones that can see. So they're going out of their way to make sure you know about the Santa Ana winds, because they don't want you to think that all these random fires started at the same exact time randomly as the Santa Ana winds. They want you to think that this is science and this is climate change, because, well, if all the civilians realized that a small group of psychopaths who have billions of dollars have the ability to manipulate, modify weather, and destroy and burn your home to the ground, that people will stop seeing gender, skin color, political ideologies, and a revolution will occur. And these people would be dealt with very, very quickly. So they can't have that happening, can they? Make sure you stay divided. Make sure you stay dumbed down. Make sure you stay believing in the science, because they're going to change it every which way they can every single day, and they expect you to fall in line when they're committing mass amounts of genocide, destruction, and chaos.
The Department of Defense spends about $1 billion annually developing directed energy weapons, such as high-energy lasers and high-powered microwaves. These weapons can disrupt or destroy their targets at the speed of light. For example, DoD has developed high-energy lasers that have successfully shot down drones, but speed isn't their only advantage. They're also less expensive per use than traditional weapons like guns and missiles. Despite those potential advantages, DoD has had trouble getting these technologies out of the lab and into service. The Army has developed a detailed transition plan to support moving these weapons into the next stages of development. We recommended that the Navy and the Air Force develop similar plans.
California have been absolutely devastating. Let's make sure to keep everyone in our prayers as the terrible situation there unfolds. But as it has, mysterious events and circumstances surrounding the fire have been posted on social media. Strange things appearing in the sky, electrical failures that look like they may have caused some of the fires, videos that look like arson was involved, as well as information on the absolutely terrible job that the government in California, as well as the federal government, has done to help and prevent these types of situations happening in our country. We'll first look at some of the mysterious anomalies that occurred around the fires. In this first video, you can see something streaking through the sky. Some people were saying it looks like a rocket, others like a drone or a UFO. There's really no explanation to what these things are. They're definitely not helicopters. Most of the flights during this whole event were actually grounded, including support from fire department resources. In this next video, a black-looking entity or blob or something in the sky appeared over Santa Monica. I made a video recently on this type of black figure that was appearing all around the world at concerts and during natural disasters. And here is again a similar looking entity seen over Santa Monica, California.
Sky. It's above the fire right now in Santa Monica. It's a kite. It's a kite?
Yeah, it's a kite. I can see by its shape. It's a kite.
There's the fire.
And it's spreading.
I'm trying to determine what direction it's going.
Yeah, it's very bright. Actually, I don't know what that is.
It's not a kite. It's not. It's just flying around. Not a kite. Kites are not gonna just fly away. It's moving.
This video here was also posted with what looks to be a fireball in the sky. Now this does look like a time lapse, so this could potentially be a helicopter or something like that, but it's worth documenting with the other anomalies that happened during this event. Some very strange videos were posted to multiple social media accounts where there were power surges, one the day before and then the next day the same location had a fire, as well as power lines sparking, which definitely could cause a fire. Some people were saying this was deliberate and that this caused some of the fires in California.
That excites the car, and then after it goes through, you go, just so you know, it's a monthly charge. Yeah, okay. He told me after, and he was like, look, you can cancel on.
Someone in the comments said that the same thing happened in front of their house and they called 911 and it was busy. In this video posted to Instagram, it looks like a transformer or something lit up the sky with a blue light. We've seen this before in other locations, but oddly enough, the very next day we see that is the location where one of the fires was burning pretty bad. There has been rumors circulating online that some of these fires were caused due to arson. Now, official reports came out and were shooting down those theories, but we can see here on the New York Post, Kenneth Fire in West Hollywood Hills probed as arson, one in custody after residents detained them. Andrew Huberman, a well-known podcaster, posted a video online of him recording a group of citizens in the streets of Los Angeles setting fires right outside of some apartment buildings.
People are lighting fires now. You can see they lit a fire. These guys, not all the people there, but some of those guys lit that fire, and these guys they're actually the trees caught fire and then the palms are catching fire. So civilians are now lighting fires down in the so-called flats around Santa Monica, Venice. So be safe out there. Fire department's been dispatched. We don't have enough water to put this thing out.
This was an odd video being posted all over the place of a young group of people throwing gas cans out on the side of the road. Some people were saying this was fueling the fires, or they were setting the fires in the Palisades. But let's make sure to take everything into account. As you can see, they're heading straight towards flames. If they just grabbed these gas cans for the potential of running out of gas on the highway and they see they're heading towards the fire, this could be the reason why they're throwing them out of the car. Benny Johnson posted, "There are now dozens of credible reports of eco-terrorism throughout LA. We have been saying this from the beginning. These fires are not natural. They are being started." Within this post that he posted on X as well as Instagram, you can see random fires that are nowhere near the large fires that have very clearly been deliberately set. This one here at a dumpster on the side of the road somewhere, as well as this small fire pretty close to a gas station. Again, nowhere near any of the large fires, so this is looking like arson was definitely taking place throughout California. 4 weeks ago on Joe Rogan's podcast, he talked about a potential fire in Los Angeles that would burn so bad that it would burn all of Los Angeles all the way to the ocean, that he heard this from a firefighter. Pretty incredible that he says that, and then a month later, we see something very similar take place.
I was filming Fear Factor. I talked to this guy who was a fire guy for the fire department. He said, it's just going to be a matter of time. There's going to be one day where a fire hits LA and the wind is the right way and we're not going to be able to stop it. It's just going to burn right through to the ocean. He goes, it's just a matter of time. We all know it. I was like, what? Dude. I go, the whole city? He goes, the whole city. He goes, when those big fires get going, there's not a thing. Like when a friend was trying to sell a house in California, and it turned out it was $125,000 a year just to get fire insurance. Yeah. Like what?
In that case, I think it's just a pretty strange coincidence of timing. But when we look at what has gone on with the insurance companies in California, that I believe is beyond coincidence. California insurer canceled policies month before Los Angeles wildfires. It's being said that over 60% of the people who lived in Pacific Palisades had State Farm insurance, and just a few months ago, they canceled the fire aspect of the insurance so that anybody's home that burned in a fire could not get any type of help from the insurance company. This really makes you start to question everything that took place when you see something like this. It's literally in the billions of dollars that they do not have to pay out now by taking fire off of the insurance. Here we can hear it from one of the residents in their own words.
I know I'm not supposed to be here, but this is my parents' home. I know the feeling. And they just they got canceled from their fire insurance. So they're dealing with this. They're 90 years old, and through the state of California, because of this, they're 90 years old, that they've lived in this house for 75 years, and they've had the same insurance, and these insurance people decided to cancel their fire. And we're going through this, and it just happened, and they have no fire insurance. So thank you, California insurance companies, supporting residents who pay taxes and love California.
Now let's take a look at some of the massive mistakes that have been made by the government of California and the politicians who run it, because a lot of this could have been prevented. This should be the type of thing they focus on, protecting its citizens from fire and not its woke liberal ideologies. And it's pretty clear to see people are fed up with this, and they don't even have anything to explain when they are questioned about their actions. Here's the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, refusing to even answer very clear questions about the terrible mistakes she made that could have helped the Los Angeles Fire Department in such a situation as this.
Fire chiefs say that they're really stretched to the limit and running out of water. What have you got to say to that?
Touching me, okay?
Have you no response to that? Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up, I appreciate it.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position?
Gavin Newsom was also confronted by a resident from Pacific Palisades, and he tries to dodge the questions immediately and get out of it by saying he's on the phone with the president. But as we'll see, many of their actions led to this disaster being worse than it had to be, but here's him being confronted.
Governor, you got a second? Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
That's all, literally.
Is it going to be different next time?
It has to be. Has to be, of course.
What are you going to do?
I'm doing
To
everything
fill the
I can.
hydrants. I would fill them up personally, you know that.
I literally have.
I would fill up the hydrants myself.
I understand.
But would you do that?
I would do whatever I can.
But you're not. I see do you know there's water dripping over there, Governor? There's water coming out there. You can use it.
I appreciate it. I'm going to make the call to address everything I can right now, including making sure people
I'd
are
like
safe.
to make sure you do. Can I have an opportunity to at least tell people you're doing what you're saying you're doing?
Now let's take a look at some of the reasons why people affected by these fires in California are so upset with their government, because they have a lot of reason to be. California voters passed $7.5 billion water bond in 2014. 8 years ago, California voters approved Proposition 1, a $7.5 billion water bond to fund water infrastructure projects, including $2.7 billion earmarked specifically for new water storage. Not a single water storage project was completed. LA Mayor Karen Bass cut fire department funding by $17.6 million, focused on homeless spending months before wildfires turned city into hellscape. LA Fire Department chief warned budget cuts severely limited disaster response a month before LA wildfires outbreak. Los Angeles already shipped firefighting equipment to Ukraine, and now Biden is planning another handout as California burns.
We got this notification yesterday that our home was probably burning down. Today, there's a baby still standing, I'm not sure. But the good news is, I'm a great grandfather as of today. I have a granddaughter, and a baby girl, a baby boy. So I remember this day for a lot of long reasons.
How red tape strangled California forest management before LA fires. Gavin Newsom was seen complaining about how people were politicizing this. Well, it is political when you rule over a specific area and you do such a terrible job that disasters are worse than they need to be.
Because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt. And for the sake of a smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants today in Los Angeles. It was a terrible thing. This is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration. They don't have any water. They didn't have water in the fire hydrants.
A lot of times the money can't even be accounted for when it's distributed in California to different governmental reasons. You don't even know where it goes. A lot of it goes to illegal immigrants, to homeless, and it's not even helping these people because the problem is getting worse and worse. Let's look a little bit into some more of the possibility of homeless setting fires here. Last time I was in LA, a couple months ago, I actually saw a homeless person setting a fire not too far from one of these locations.
From 2020 to 2023, the number of fires in homeless encampments have doubled. Last year alone, reporting 13,909. In 2018, by the way, there were only 7 homeless encampment fires. Keep in mind, in the same time frame, California spent $24 billion with a B dollars on the homeless problem, as they called it. By the way, most of that money is completely unaccounted for at this present time. In fact, according to CBS News, in 2021, homeless encampment fires accounted for 80% of fire breakouts in the LA area. So if you stack this on the fact that California won't even trim a branch because all the hippies freak out about touching anything in the environment, this is what you get. Look, the liberal argument out there is that we should not interfere with Mother Nature at all. And that is why they don't do any forest management.
There are actually evil, demonic forces that are behind the radical liberal ideologies that are so prevalent in California. and those forces don't want the betterment of society as a whole. They want its destruction, which is why we see funding going to things that really don't benefit the society. That's why we run into issues like this. Fire hydrants ran dry in Southern California just when they were needed most. The millions and even billions of dollars that are unaccounted for or have gone to useless projects should go to things like this, actual aircrafts and fire breaks and planning for these types of events. This did not have to be as bad as it was. Even just the knowledge of having a pump from your backyard, just a couple $100 pump you can get at any hardware store to have next to your pool, which many people in these areas have. If all or even half of these pools had pumps, the fires would not have been anywhere near as destructive as they were. Elon Musk talked about some of the details about how the terrible government policies and overreach in California made the fires be worse than they had to be.
I mean, you take sort of the California wildfires, for example. There's like this fish called the smelt, for example. So we have far more freshwater runoff into the ocean than we should, really, on the theory that it helps this one little fish that likes a slightly briny freshwater saltwater mix. If we keep more freshwater, then the smelt fish will not be happy. But there's no actual evidence that the smelt fish is going to be unhappy if we keep a bit more fresh water. In fact, we should keep more fresh water, keep the reservoirs full, and just have some sensible fire breaks and move the brush away from houses. But due to a bunch of environmental rulings, you can't actually do that in California. They're not allowed to do the fire breaks, and they're not allowed to push the brush back away from houses. That's just an example of like, we've saved a lot of tragedy in LA if we'd done that.
The Bible tells us that the love of many will grow cold as we head into the last days, and terrible reports came out of homes being looted, homes that were burned down, people going and looting these homes, in my opinion, just really showing that the love of people is growing colder and colder, a sign of the last days.
Defense 2, go ahead. I could use some more resources up here at Pinecrest. I need because I do have trying to break into homes up here. 14. Copy that. Can you go ahead and give me a rundown of your resources?
Luna announced that deputies arrested 2 people this morning for allegedly looting homes of victims of the Eaton fire. Now, he had this message for anyone looking to prey on fire victims.
If you are thinking about coming into any of these areas to steal from our residents, I'm going to tell you something. You're going to be caught, you're going to be arrested, and you're going to be prosecuted. Don't do that. Stay out of these areas. It's only for emergency workers and people who live there.
There's a lot of unanswered questions in the aftermath of these fires, and the politicians in the state of California need to be held accountable for these actions and these ideologies that they have that have led to the destruction of one of the most beautiful states in the country. They focus on things that actually destroy the nation and destroy the state instead of focusing on things like preventing fires that they know are coming. Now, there is sad things taking place in the earth, and it's actually prophesied that everything in the earth will eventually one day burn and be destroyed. But if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, you have the hope of a new heavens and a new earth. The only thing on this earth that will last for eternity is your relationship with God and accepting the Lord Jesus Christ. So don't cling to the things of this earth. Cling to that relationship that I hope and pray you have, because the time is coming when this will be destroyed, and that is all that will matter. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. Therefore, since all these things will be dissolved, what manner of persons ought you to be in holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be dissolved, being on fire, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth, in which righteousness dwells.
emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners was slain. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. Oh, that old rugged cross, so despised by the world, has a wondrous attraction for me. For the dear Lamb of God left his glory above to bear it to dark Calvary. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. Oh, now, and that old rugged cross stained with blood so divine, a wondrous beauty I see. For 'twas on that old cross Jesus suffered and died to pardon and sanctify me. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. To the old rugged cross I will ever be true. Its shame and reproach gladly bear. Then he'll call me someday to my home far away, where his glory forever I'll share. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. Then he'll call